Good morning. Welcome to the B.F. Anderson Technical Report for December the 30th. We're doing things a little early this week due to the holidays, and so we're keeping a close eye on what's going on here as we come to the end of the year. You know, I'm reading a new book right now. It's not a new book. It was written in 1971 by Gerald Loeb called The Battle for Corporate Profits, and basically what Loeb stresses in the book, and it's a great book, I recommend it highly, is that trend is the most important thing. We want to see an uptrend, and we certainly have that. The NASDAQ is in a very strong uptrend. Both moving averages are in an uptrend. The lower moving average is in an uptrend. Looks good. Now, on a weekly basis, you can kind of see the problem a little bit here. We're probably setting up for maybe a pullback or a correction after the first of the year. Hard to say. Don't be surprised if the market has somewhat of a pullback. However, the trend is very positive on a weekly basis. Now back to our ratio, we can see here that we are on a buy signal. Growth stocks are starting to, or the NASDAQ basically is starting to outperform the consumer staples stocks, which is a very positive sign. You can see here that the lower moving average has turned up and it has crossed above the upper moving average and is in an uptrend. This is the MACD indicator. You can see here that MACD is still on a very positive buy signal. This is the S&P making new highs. Global Dow, we're seeing a lot more attention coming into the international stocks. We are starting to pay attention to that as well. We're getting a breakout here of the Global Dow, which is very positive. We'll talk more about that. Value line geometric is actually improving. We are in an uptrend on this particular index, very important index. It has broken above 550. A move in this direction would be very positive. On the small caps, the Russell 2000, we've got the golden cross. The 50-day moving average has crossed above the 200-day moving average. The small caps are going to be key to the next cycle. Here we have the MACD indicator on the small caps. You can see the small caps have not made a new high. Now this is a monthly graph. We're seeing a monthly MACD, which is moving average convergence divergence. It's measuring momentum now. And so we're seeing an improvement in upward momentum. The small cap index is continuing to improve. Same thing for the value line geometric. We're seeing an improvement in the momentum. Now, when I talked earlier about trend is the most important thing. However, a secondary indicator is somewhat an indication of human behavior. This is a put-call ratio. It measures fear and greed. So when you get real high readings here, it means that people are buying puts instead of calls, which means they're bearish. That's usually a buy signal. Now we are in very difficult area here for the put-call ratio. Now, Gerald Loeb in his books mentions, he talks about this, and he goes, how hot is hot and how cold is cold? That's the problem with this indicator. This is why it's a secondary indicator. Now, if you get something like this, where the put-call ratio is somewhat giving a sell signal here, however, we're not seeing any deterioration of the trend, so that's what we want to really watch for. Now, another thing to realize here, optimism on a longer-term basis is not near at levels that would cause me to have concern. In fact, in the year 2019, 190, and that should be billion, I have a typo there, billion outflows from funds, from equity, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, so forth. Basically, what it's saying is that the general public out there is not buying stocks. In fact, they got out of the market last year. So that's really somewhat of a positive. The other good news here, the financial stocks is something we're keeping an eye on. The financials have broken out. Now I'm talking banks, insurance companies. These stocks have broken out of a 20-month base. So if we've got a good, strong financial sector, that usually portends well for the economy. This is the PGJ. This is the Golden Dragon China ETF. This measures all the stocks that trade in the United States as American depository receipts in the United States. Now, why that's important is Chinese stocks have different accounting systems in their country we want to make sure that they use our accounting systems here in the United States. So for them to be able to list on our exchanges, they have to do ADRs. But you can see here that after somewhat of a difficult period, we have gotten back on track in an uptrend on the Chinese stocks. The New York Composite, just to make a note about the New York Composite, it has hit a new high for the first time in a year. And the studies that go back on this says the New York Stock Exchange hits first new high in over a year. This has happened only 8 times since 1980. And 1 year later, the New York Stock Exchange is up 14% the following year. So this means that the bull market probably is going to continue. Now, the top 5 stocks, we're seeing a lot of emphasis on semiconductors. This is Advanced Micro Devices, very strong uptrend. This is Lam Research. This is a company that fabricates semiconductors. Very positive uptrend. Again, semiconductors are getting a lot of attention. Here's another semiconductor. This is Qorvo, which is involved in the 5G technology, especially in the handsets. Skyworks Solutions, same thing. Semiconductors, they are involved in 5G and mainly in the handsets. Tesla, this is an interesting company. Loeb in his book basically says sometimes there's what they call the elephant in the living room, meaning that when you look at a company and it really does apparently look like the way things are going, it's like an elephant in the living room. What's going on with Tesla is quite interesting. They're developing new technologies to solve 2 primary problems. One thing about electric cars, they're too expensive. And the reason they're too expensive is because the batteries are too expensive. Well, they're solving that problem. The other problem is what we call range anxiety. People are worried they're going to get stranded because they don't have a gas station. Well, Tesla is coming out with these charging stations all over the country. In fact, I was reading last night that they're coming out with a version 3 charging station that will give you 75 miles in 5 minutes. So a lot of exciting news there. So all in all, things are looking good. Trends are positive. However, we are cautious about the fact that there may be some type of a pullback after the first of the year, but we don't know that for sure. We'll just keep a close eye. Thank you.